Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. In this video we're going to be talking about Mikola in the Dream Realm because Mikola has been out for 3 days now and she has been a part of the top scoring Dream Realm boss team for all 3 days that she's been out. And so definitely Mikola is going to be up there with one of the top performing Dream Realm heroes, and I want to take a look because Splash is the top ranker from our district and he has been using what is considered to be the top scoring Mikola teams each day that the Dream Realm bosses have been out, and all the teams are really similar. They're using 4 of the same heroes in every single team, and then based on which day it is and which Dream Realm boss it is, the final hero slot kind of varies. But I'm going to begin it off by talking about the Necrodrakon. So Necrodrakon is the boss today, and this is probably going to be the top scoring team as of right now. And the interesting thing is, even though Mikola is in all of these teams, she's not replacing Smokey. She's just going to be there with Smokey, because both Smokey and Mikola are going to give the attack buff to your team, and with enough skill power from the charms, they're going to be giving 46% total attack power to your entire team, all of your allies. But all of these teams are also going to have Freyaster and Lily May. So basically, the core of Dream Realm so far for these 3 Dream Realm bosses, and I'm expecting it's going to be similar for Alpha Bear and Lone Gaze as well, it is Freyaster, Lily May, Smokey, and Mikola. These are really now the top 4 Dream Realm endgame heroes. This is for the endless mode of the boss. Things may be different before this. And if we take a look at some of the other teams we have here, on King Croaker, it is going to be almost the same team, but instead of having Rainier here, as was in for Necrodrakon, Taylene is going to be the hero which is going to be used just to output a bit of additional damage. And this causes the damage output to be higher than if, for example, having Rainier here. And then finally, if we look at the final Dream Realm boss, it is the Skyclops, which is using again the same core of Lily May, Freyaster, Smokey, Mikola, but instead of Rainier or instead of Taylene, Shakira is going to be the chosen option for the Skyclops boss. So what we can summarize from all of this is that the key Dream Realm heroes right now in the current meta are Freyaster, Mikola, Lily May, and Smokey. And so far, out of the 3 days Mikola has been out, she has been a part of these teams, the top performing teams. Okay, so we have the Necrodrakon team. And all of them are going to run to the front line to get control of the Honor Arena right at the beginning of the match. And so the maximum buffs are going to be coming out from the Mikola. And then you just have the massive attack and haste buff. Lily May outputs the most amount of damage in this fight, but Freyaster's definitely help out a lot as well. And because you have both Smokey and Mikola, the sustain is a lot better. Because if you're looking at a team like the other Necrodrakon teams, usually they don't even run Smokey. Usually Smokey is not a good option to be run in Necrodrakon, which is crazy that Smokey has actually now become viable for Necrodrakon now that Mikola has been added and in this Freyaster type team. But yeah, then the only hero that dies here is Mikola. Maybe even if he reattempted this and Mikola didn't die, they could get a little bit of a higher damage output. Maybe even closing, and this was around 48 billion, I think, and he could maybe even go up to 49, maybe even 50. So that was the Necrodrakon team. If we look at the King Croaker team, it is going to be... Now the Taylene will actually be taking the aggro of the King Croaker's insta-kill. So, because Taylene can come back to life. And then it allows your Freyaster to deal his maximum damage with his illusion. I think maybe the next insta-kill will go off on the Freyaster. But by running a team like this, then you don't have to run Thorn to take the insta-kills, because Taylene can take them instead. And also output more damage than the Thorn debuff would be providing. So that is pretty much the idea behind this King Croaker team. He got around, I think, definitely over 50 billion damage, but not sure how much more, maybe 52 billion damage. All of the heroes survived throughout the entire fight. There's really going to be no issue with survivability for endless boss modes if you have both Smokey and Mikola, because they're both going to be providing some healing. Mikola doing half the healing of the Smokey over there, which is still pretty good because Smokey's healing output is insane. So to even come to half of Smokey's is pretty good. And in this fight, actually, the healing from Smokey and Mikola are pretty similar, but I think it's because, like, they're never at a risk of dying in this Skyclops team, because the Skyclops boss doesn't deal enough damage. And then usually, and now the minions will spawn, and they can contest the control or ownership of the Honor Arena, and you're going to see that later on, that it does actually go gray, and they lose control of it. But I'm pretty sure, just like right there, it turned gray. But I'm pretty sure that even controlling the Onryo one time in the fight, it will provide the permanent attack buff to all of your allies from her heroic dual skill. But even if that is not the case, they do regain control of the Honor Arena pretty quickly. And still the haste buff is going to be provided from the ultimate cast of Mikola. And that is really the most important thing here, because that allows you to cycle all of your cooldowns faster. But for example, and getting 55 billion damage, I think maybe he could even get a higher damage output with that team, depending on how many runs you do. And like, if we take a look now at Alpha Baron Lone Gaze, what I'm going to expect to happen is I think that on these days, because Coco is used here, Coco is probably going to be replaced with Mikola, because Mikola will offer some more protection for your team, the healing, and also will provide more offensive buffs to increase your damage output. And the logs that I have here for the top scoreboards, these are not actually the top performing teams. People haven't been sharing their top performing teams in my district, I guess because they're trying to compete with each other. But I'm going to try to have Splash share the top performing teams. And when we're done with the whole rotation of all of these Dream bosses, we'll make another video talking about all the top performing teams so far. But I do expect that Mikola, Freyasto, Smokey combo, probably even Lily May as a damage dealer, is going to be the maximum damage option for Lone Gaze, and maybe even the Alpha Bear as well. Maybe the only Dream Realm boss which is going to be coming out tomorrow, we'll have to wait and see, Snow Stomper. Maybe Mikola won't be the greatest here, and Smokey definitely cannot be run here. But people are still thinking Mikola will be usable here, because apparently her ultimate cast cannot be interrupted by the Snow Stomper skills. And then she would be a good option here to power up your team. So really, why is Mikola performing so well? How is she increasing the damage output? A lot of it comes from really her attack buff. Her attack buff and her haste buff. Because with haste, you're going to be able to cast your skills more frequently, if we take a look at it. And the same thing is the reason why Smokey is such a key hero in almost all of the Dream Realm bosses. Because he gives attack buff to your team up to 23% if you have 3 skill power charms onto him, or other than that it would be 20% attack power. And Mikola will do the same thing as soon as your team gains control of the Honor Arena. And in Dream Realm bosses, it's really easy to control the Honor Arena because there are really no enemies that are competing with you, other than in the Skyclops boss with the minions. So they're gonna have this attack buff. That is gonna power up your team's damage as a whole. And then on top of that, they have the haste buff. She has a pretty 40 haste buff, and Smokey has a 30 haste buff. That will cause you to cast your skills 40% more frequently, charge up your ultimate faster, and this is how you're going to cycle your skills and your ultimates to deal more damage. So basically, these supports that have massive haste and attack buff are going to be the best options for Dream Realm, and it's good to have even both of them. Like, that was a weird thing. I was thinking, like, Mikola probably won't replace Smokey, so then you would just run Smokey and then 3 damage dealers and like a Rainier, for example. But it's better to run multiple buffers like Mikola and the Smokey, and then maybe even Rainier if need be, like in the Necrodrakon boss, and just have like your totally juiced up 2 damage dealers with all of this support. So really, this is something we can now use to predict in the future if a new hero is coming out and they have AoE or battlefield-wide haste buff and attack buff. These are going to be really good supports for improving the damage in the Dream Realm. And that's their main use. Because for the Combat Fury from a Mythic Plus, I don't know how this is calculated, but it says it will deal damage equal to 50% of our attack to adjacent allies, and this should count as Mikola's damage, I would think. But if you look at Mikola's damage on all of these Dream Realm boss scores, her damage output is going to be very low. So if the Combat Fury is accounted for in her damage output from the chart here, then that doesn't really provide anything. It's mainly just she's here for the attack buff and the haste buff. So overall, this is kind of interesting to think about and to know, but you don't have to run Mikola. And also the thing is, the real key player in all of these Dream Realm bosses is Freyasto. Freyasto is going to be the hero which will give you like the most improvement of your score in a lot of the Dream Realm bosses. And then Mikola will stack on top of that, because the haste buff I think is also applying to his illusion. and so they're just both going to be dealing massive damage from the attack buff and the haste buff. So Freestro, I think in the future is not going to be very easily power crept, because you are getting 2 heroes for the price of 1, both with high damage output. And so if you have these attack buffs and these haste buffs, they're both going to get like double the value that another hero would be getting. So it's kind of interesting to see this, but really also you have to keep in mind Lily May is also a part of all of these top performing teams. And in Lone Giz and Alpha Bear, she is a top performer. In Snow Stomper even, I think she is she a top performer in Snow Stomper? Let's take a look at the ranking here. She is even here. So Lily May is actually the top performing damage dealer in all of the Dream Realm bosses. And so if you're choosing between Lily May and Mikola, you have to pick Lily May. And if you don't have a Mikola but you have the Smokey, you're still going to have decent attack buff and haste buff for your team. And then you can fill out the slots with other options. So overall, the thing is that haste buff is important and attack buff as well. And so for example, a hero like Damien who only provides a haste buff is not going to be viable in the Dream Realm, because you need that attack buff too. Like, because Mikola or for example Smokey are providing both haste and attack buff together. And I think if you had to pick one, the attack buff is more valuable. 23% attack with all of your skill charms, mythic charms, and if you have both Smokey and Mikola together, that's 46% attack boost, and then you have your factional synergies which provide more stab boosts. So basically it's just increasing the damage output from your key damage dealers by a lot. And that is really the idea. And the haste will benefit Freestro a lot because it will probably be applying to his illusion as well, and they both are going to be dealing a pretty good amount of damage with their skills. So anyway guys, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. The bottom line is that Mikola is going to be a meta part of a lot of Dream Realm teams. But Freestro is also the meta hero, and Lily May too. And most importantly, Lily May is the damage dealer of all the Dream Realm bosses, the damage dealer of choice, which is outputting the most damage. And so if you don't have Lily May right now, I think definitely you should be going for her first, at least to Mythic Plus, before you even consider going for Mikola. And with Mikola, yes, she is improving the damage scores, but even if you didn't have her and you just had Freestro, for example, you would still be getting top scores in the Dream Realm. But yeah, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about Mikola overall, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video. And until then, everyone, peace out for now, and thank you for watching.